After a quick match, as you are seeing, they have started packing, going back to their initial. I can see God 10, that's God 10. You can see the seriousness. Just kids can cross there, they can just kick you. Hiya, thank you very much, Patriots. Still preparing for quick match, 15 steps. We can stand up for anthems.
Thank you very much. Allow me ride on the protocol already established, but to in a very special way thank my sister, Commissioner, Patriotism Secretariat under State House, Commissioner Ellen Seku, who invited me here to preside over the pass out of you, the Patriots, at Uganda Technical College, Lira. Asante sana. I also want to thank that entire Secretariat under State House, but more importantly, His Excellency President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, that as the leader, he saw that the country kind of was degenerating, and he deliberately established the National Patriotism Secretariat, which is currently under State House, to keep reminding Ugandans of the journey we have moved, of the gains we have attained as a country, but also for us to chart a way forward. Asante sana. I also want to thank your very, very able facilitators I have seen. Asante sana. I want to thank the team leader, UTC Lira, for allowing this training to take place here. Let me say this. On a very normal day, if the principal had told you, the students, to come at this point in time, which is about 10 minutes to 1, just to come and sit the way you are seated, I strongly believe that there would be so many points of objections. So many points of objections. But now, having undergone the patriotism training, you can see the sun is so hot. Whereas in your memorandum, one of your challenges were interruptions of your training by rain. But today, on the pass-out day, the sun is exceedingly hot. But as disciplined patriots, you have decided to sit. Asante sana. That is the discipline. I attained this similar training when I was a student in Senior 5. And for your information, I am a former national student leader of Uganda and a former national youth leader of Uganda. So that time, Uganda National Students Association organized a similar training at the National Leadership Institute in Chamkwanzi. Ours could have even been much more rougher than yours, because then our chief instructor was Major Kakoza Mutale. Some of you are young. And he took us through the military drills. I remember at one point we were made to crawl for about 100 meters. After crawling, when we got up, or he gave instructions for us to get up, sorry. He said, "You are dirty but alive. You are dirty but what? Alive. You can be smart when you are dead on the what? On the ground." Those were the drills of our time. I want to thank the Patriotism Secretariat in partnership with very well-trained facilitators, both from government, from the state, and more importantly, from one of the most disciplined armies in the world, the Uganda People's Defense Forces. I want to thank those facilitators who took you through a number of topics. When I was invited, in my invitation letter, I was requested to talk about 4 things: patriotism, community development, ideology, leadership. And I want to restrict my pass-out speech to those 4 areas. Ladies and gentlemen, today you now qualify to be called a patriot. I know they have taken you through the basics and the fundamentals of a patriot. But you cannot call yourself a patriot when you have not understood the trajectory that your country has gone through, especially from the time we got independence to where we are. It is only until you understand the pain that this country has gone through, it is only until you understand the many leaders that this country changed, that is when you will like your country. It is only when you understand that the peace we take for granted in Uganda, when you go somewhere else, you may not. If we tell UPDF to use all their helicopters to pick you and take you and drop you in the jungle of Somalia, I believe before you are taken from here, if there is an Akibwa, you will take off from here at a terrific speed. Just to hear that they are taking us to Somalia. Why? There is no peace in Somalia. You will take off. But now here we are, calling ourselves patriots. Patriotism is love, that selfless love for your country. In other jurisdictions, you don't even need to teach patriotism. I was in Japan with Uganda Team Olympic. I saw the level of patriotism by the Japanese children. A young Japanese child is aided by street lights. After crossing the street, turns back and bows to the street light. That is the Japanese discipline. That is the Japanese discipline. For those who love football, you watch how they behave in World Cup. When everybody has left the stadium, the Japanese would be there to pick the leftovers, to clean the stadium. That is the patriotism we are talking about. We are not even 50 or 20 or 10% of the discipline and the love for the country that I saw in Japan. The details one day I will tell another group, not your group. But in the case of Uganda, I saw a topic here about the political history of Uganda. Many of you could be younger than me. I am already midway of flow 4 of my life. I see you, you must be in flow 3 and majority in flow 2 of your life. But it is important for the history of Uganda to be re-emphasized. 1962, Uganda attained independence. By then, we used to fly the flag of Britain, called the British Union Jack. On that day of independence, the British Union Jack was lowered down, and our national colors, black, yellow, red, was raised up, symbolizing independence. Shortly after independence, there was a crisis between the Prime Minister then and the Kabaka. That was the showdown. That was 1966. In the same year, the constitution that had been promulgated in 1962 was suspended. That is what gave rise to what you hear, the pigeonhole constitution. Members of parliament simply woke up one day, went to their pigeonholes, and found something called the pigeonhole constitution, not debated in parliament. That is our history. 1971, there was a coup. Around 1978, we are told President Lula was 68 years old, and he led Uganda for 68 days. What a coincidence. A 68-year-old assuming leadership at the helm of President of Uganda, then he leads for 68 days. The most unforgotten history of Uganda is the history of 1980. And I do not know whether that facilitator of the political history of Uganda told you about that. At one point in 1980, Uganda was so hot that one person or one individual could not lead it as the president. They had to agree that 3 people would sit and lead the country. They were called the titular head of state. Under legal notice number 5 of 1980, President Museveni was part of the wing called the Military Commission. Then, he was the vice chairperson. But there were 3 people who led Uganda, and they must be in there. In fact, when we are making a calendar for Uganda, normally when I enter offices and I don't find the titular heads of state under legal notice number 5 of 1980, one of them was the son of Lango, the late Muzei Wacha Olwol. He was put there with 2 other justices, Justice Nyamuchoncho and Justice Musoke. 3 of them would sit and take a decision now taken by President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. Under the constitution, the executive authority is conferred on him. But then 3 people would sit, meaning this country was too hot. For those of you who are from Lao, Ichohabu, that is the potatoes we normally roast. Normally when you remove it from the soil, it is too hot. You want to heat it, you have the appetite, but it is too hot for you to eat. That was the situation in Uganda then. So it needed 3 people. That history is one of the part of Ugandan history that we don't talk about to the young people in order for us to understand where we are from and where we are. 1986, the National Resistance Army took over power, now transformed into UPDF. The UPDF, the then NRA, and the political wing called the NRM are twins. In our culture of Lango, one is Opio, the other one is Ochen. Or one is Apio, the other one is Achen. They are twins. The NRA, NRM, which is now UPDF, NRM. They are twins. And the way we work like twins. So friends, now that we are talking about patriotism, someone talked about the 1995 Constitution. When our forefathers were promulgating the Constitution of Uganda 1995, I want to implore you, even if you are a scientist, you normally leave this for us, literature students and history students, to read. For you, you want to know about this and that, civil engineering, electrical engineering. But you cannot be an electrical engineer without knowing the history of your country. You cannot be a civil engineer without knowing the history of your country. Very, very important for you to know. That will shape your future. In the 1995 Constitution, when you read through the preamble is like the introduction. The people of Uganda made a commitment to the extent that it is captured in the preamble. We, the people of Uganda, recalling our history, which has been characterized by political and constitutional instability, then it flows. But there is where we made a commitment, committed to building a better future. And this is part of our commitment to building a better future. I know, for those of you who come from Lang or Teso, West Nile, we tasted war. We know. These streets of Lira city now, in the evening, would be rooms for people to sleep during the LRA, during Lakwena, during the Lumulum days. Many of you are young, but this is what we went through. During the Karamojong cattle rustlers peak season, people would run to Lira town here. But at least now, we are enjoying the peace. So this is where we are coming from, and this is where we are, ladies and gentlemen. But the most important reason why this training is important is that in that same constitution, under what they call the National Objectives and Directive Principles of State Policy, number 29, it talks about the duties of a Ugandan citizen, you and me. Number 1, we are duty bound by the 1995 Constitution of Uganda to be patriotic and loyal to our country, Uganda. That is contained in our national constitution, national objective number 29. So we are duty bound. So when we come here, we are like Christians who have gone to church, or Christians who go to church every Sunday, for us to remind ourselves of the story, of the life, and of the works executed by our Lord Jesus Christ. We are reminding ourselves that we are duty bound to be patriotic and loyal to Uganda under our national constitution. So that is something I can add under patriotism. When we come to leadership, leadership is not about title, it's not about position. Leadership is about showing the way. You will go back to your villages. They will know you have gone through this patriotism training. What leadership will you be showing? What way will you be showing? Leadership is about influence. Leadership is about guiding our others. Leadership is about inspiring others. That is now your cardinal responsibility, to guide, to inspire, to motivate, to show the way. Because you are now more or less the pioneer patriots of Uganda Technical College, Lira. Because I've seen in your memo, you are calling for the establishment of the Patriotism Club at UTC Lira. You are already members. In fact, it is you now to go and elect yourselves in 2 positions of leadership. Who will be your president or chairman of Patriotism Club of UTC Lira? And you carry on the mantle. Leaders come, leaders go. In leadership, all that you do in guiding, in inspiring people, it is geared towards achieving a shared vision. When you ask me what is the shared vision of the National Resistance Movement, because I'm the vice chairperson in charge of Northern Uganda, our shared vision is about peace, number 1. And we must thank President Museveni as the Commander-in-Chief of the UPDF, President of Uganda, for ensuring that from north to central to east to western Uganda, internally, there is peace. Asante sana. Yongeza tena. Our shared vision number 2 as NRM under the leadership of President Museveni is development. Look at Lango, where President got Lango from. Despite the fact that we produced a 2-time president, did we have a university? Did we have a university under him in the 2 terms? The answer is no. Akibwa won gold medal in 1972. Under the leadership of our own, did we construct an Akibwa stadium? The answer is no. Under his leadership was Uganda Technical College transformed into a center of excellence for roads construction? The answer is no. Partly why? There was no peace during that time. In his first government and second government, coup after coup. You try a coup after, under President Museveni, he will test the bitter pills of attempting a coup. Just try it as Patriots. You can even start from here right now. You will test the bitter pills of a coup. But you can see that from 1962 to 1986, Uganda had how many presidents? 8 or 8? 8. 8 plus the 3. Let's say now 9. But from 1996 to date, it is in stable hands. It is in very, very stable hands. We can be here, apart from these young people disturbing our peace. These ones, you call them street boys and street girls, the team leader was talking about. This now brings me to the question of community development. Community development, to me, is anchored on a philosophy that we borrowed from South Africa. A story is told that there was one time a man called Mr. Ubuntu in South Africa. Mr. Ubuntu one day assembled young children, brought them together, but about 50 meters away from where they were, Mr. Ubuntu put their mangoes in a bucket. He told the African children of South African origin that, do you see that bucket full of mangoes? Children, you know, they're normally excited. Yes, Mr. Ubuntu. He told them, I want you to run. The fastest child who reaches that bucket will eat all the mangoes. I'm talking about community, the spirit of Ubuntu. He set them together, on your mark, get set, go. The children, instead of running to get the fastest runner, they decided to hold their hands together. They held their hands together, they ran, they arrived together, they reached the bucket together. Mr. Ubuntu again tested their integrity by saying, but I told you, it is only the fastest child who would eat the mangoes here. Why did you decide to arrive at once? They told Mr. Ubuntu that, Mr. Ubuntu, even if I had arrived before others, I am because we are. That is the principle of that community, the community aspect that you want me to talk about. Community development. You could see in the African children, but in the modern day children we have, my friend, nobody would hold the hands of each other. I would run at the speed more than that of a Kibwa and be the first to reach and partake of the mangoes. But would you eat all the mangoes alone? The answer is no. So Ubuntu philosophy is what we are talking about. Coming together the way you are. In your individual characteristics, for us in Lango we call it Ogena. You want to do your things alone. Alone. At Lango College here, we used to have students who would wake up like at 4 a.m. when they are going to read around exams time. They don't even bother to wake up their neighbors. You only reach class and say, Mr. O'Kelly, you're already in class. You did not even wake me up. Ah, man, you were dead asleep the time I left. So they like doing their things alone. But here we are talking about coming together, taking action together on what is important. What drives the community? Currently, what is driving our communities are wealth creation initiatives introduced by the NRM. You hear of PDM, you hear of Emioga, you hear of SACCOs. Join! Because like a Myoga is supporting like carpenters, welders. Join. Government has money and it is injecting every year, every term, every cycle an audit is done and you have consumed that money. Government sends money. Not to one institution. Don't go to the office of your team leader saying, Obua was telling us that there's some money sent by government under Myoga. This is in constituencies. That is part of what we are talking about as community development. Those programs introduced by government. I now come to the point of ideology. Ideology is science of ideas. What ideas do you have? What ideas do I have? When we combine our ideas, which one is good for the common good of our people? Ideology is about beliefs, it's about values, it is about ideas we believe in. When you ask me what is the ideology of NRM, the ideology of NRM is anchored on the NRM 4 core principles. One of them is the reason why you are in the sun. Yes, patriotism. That is one of the core values, all the core principles of NRM. Number 2, Pan-Africanism, love for your country. That is the reason why we deployed our national force, the UPDF, in Somalia. That is why we deployed them in South Sudan to help fellow Africans under the Pan-African spirit. Core principle number 3, socio-economic transformation. Core principle number 4, democracy. We have just had an election with results. Some went through, some lost. That is democracy in Uganda. That is democracy. Even here you are introducing others, Guild President, Minister of Justice, Minister for Presidency, Minister in charge of what? Who is the government chief whip here for UTC Lira? There must be somebody in charge of all these others. Because even the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs should be whipped if he is not acting in conformity with the principles of constitutionalism. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, I have seen your memo, introduction of patriotism at UTC. I think that is a given. Isn't it? It is a given. If you are the pioneers, please form the leadership. Training period, I agree with you. Because I could see in the parade formation, at one point, I think about 70% were lost. At one point. But you tried. Please clap for yourself. Clap, 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 clap for yourself. You tried. Because in the principle on the question of wall fence, this is an institution that should lead by example. I would want you to borrow a lead from the current Chief of Defense Forces. When he took over, the army headquarters at Mbuya